When fear shows up as failure to commit fully to Agile, we experience one of the most common behaviors associated with Agile failure, which is the failure to commit. That's this week on the Badass Agile podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining. As always, so great to see you. What can you do about failure to commit to Agile practices? It's a common problem. Well, first, let's remember why we're here. To create an elite tribe of leaders who truly serve their clients and communities by doing what matters and what works. Relentlessly chasing value and excellence like a badass. There's so many resources about what you need to do to be agile, but we're focused on who you need to become in order to lead teams. So let's hammer down those fundamentals to create a unique and powerful force in this industry. Now, if this helps you, tell your friends. And don't forget to check out my daily Agile inspirations for leaders by subscribing to my email list. You'll get a preview of next week's posts and a free video to help you align your week with strength and focus delivered straight to your inbox. Now, you can also submit your coaching or leadership questions there, all at badassagile.com, so go sign up, post your questions today. So what's this mean, failure to commit? Well, I define it as an unwillingness or inability to adopt agile thinking and practices in such a way that you bring about the desired benefit of doing Agile in the first place. Whatever that may be for you, if there's an outcome you're looking for, but you're unwilling to commit to the behaviors and mindsets required to get there, that's failure to commit. Before we go blaming our clients and their failure to commit as the root cause of Agile failure, let's make sure first that your house is clear. Are you insisting on practices that don't make sense? Are you being too dogmatic? Remember, not everything has to be a story and an epic. Not everything is demoable. Not every team needs Agile. So being too strict in the application and setting expectations around a wrong fit is not going to help you either, and we can't very well blame our clients for failing to commit to things that don't actually make sense. Now, once we've got that out of the way, when we say commitment, what do we mean by commitment? Well, remember, it's the adoption of the thinking and the practices, so it can show up as your client's unwilling to identify project candidates to try. They're unwilling to apply resources, that is to say people, at 100% or some reasonable percentage of their time so that they can fully experience and embody Agile ways of working. And it could be an unwillingness to dedicate time of any kind. So that could be, a product owner doesn't have to be in the room 100% of the time. But if they're not available enough, you're going to get mixed results and you're going to experience slowdowns. You know what else? It could be the commitment of resources in general. Like, it's little things that I notice that if we say one way we can really conserve time is by having a physical scrum board, and yet we struggle and wait for 30 to 60 days to get a whiteboard surface plastered on a wall or to get sufficient sticky notes and Sharpies, and that's always a struggle. That, to my mind, is an unwillingness to do whatever is necessary to get the desired outcome. It could show up as unwillingness to co-locate, to move people into a separate room, to get them to give up their existing desks, locations, even for part of a day. And in general, it's an unwillingness to abandon old ways of thinking and doing. I mean, it really shows up as people saying no, or I can't, or I won't, to way more things than they say yes to. Now, those are specific behaviors that indicate, an unwillingness to commit, but how it shows up, that is to say the symptoms, the clear and present signs that failure to commit is hurting you, is that we have slow adoption of agility itself. So we see a lot of insistence on planned frameworks or extensive upfront planning before executing. So if people are saying, we'd like to be agile, but before we do this, we just want to plan it out or think about it a little bit longer. There's a failure to commit right there. It may result or show up as an insistence on traditional waterfall artifacts. And especially big red flag is if those artifacts are really not effective. They're not serving anybody. They're not doing anything. Big clue if nobody reads them. This proves that they're not so much effective as they are comfortable. And they could be things like project charters, business requirements documents, upfront design documents. Anything that is upfront tends to be warning. Another symptom of failing to commit is if we start doing Agile. So we begin the practices, everyone's nodding their heads at first, but we slowly notice a backsliding into waterfall processes. So we insist on bringing back status meetings, long status reporting commitments in every single sprint. Once more, insistence on upfront planning, creation and formation of committees that describe exactly how we're going to go about this thing. And when these things happen, yet another symptom is that if people defend those choices by saying, well, this is the way we've always done things. Exactly. That right there is a symbol of a problem, that we're not willing to embrace change, that we're not willing to try something new. And finally, another broad sign, a generic sign of failure to commit to agility is resisting in small or large ways or violating Agile ceremonies, role definitions, and team agreements. So when someone says, sure, we'll have a product owner role, but we really need 3 different product owners. Or perhaps they'll commit to doing demos, but they only want to do them once every 6 weeks or 6 months. Those kinds of half measures are clear indicators that they're not willing to go all the way in with their Agile adoption. Well, you can imagine how these things would be problematic because it's difficult to deliver the kinds of results that Agile promises. Early and frequent value delivery, rapid course correction, making work visible, empowered and enabled cross-functional teams. Pretty hard to do those things if you don't make the commitment to the practices that underpin them. So what are you going to do? If this is you, if this describes your organization, however will you break free? Well, the first thing is a note of inspiration. Stay certain and steadfast at all times. You will feel frequently that as an Agile leader, you're swimming upstream. You're against the current, and that will often be true. That is the fight. I've said this a million times. Teaching Agile principles and practices is easy. You can learn them in a couple of hours, and you can really get them rolling in a couple of days. So the challenge of the job, the lifelong struggle that makes Agile coaching and Agile leadership a career, is fighting the opposition to change and the mindsets of certainty and safety. So the most important thing you as a leader must do is never quit, never surrender your belief that the right application of Agile can help your client and their customers. Now, does that mean you never make compromises? No. You can make small compromises, but they have to be temporary or exceptional in nature. So, for example, I often say, well, listen, if I can get you started with a Kanban board, or if I can just get you to do retrospectives, this is a way of giving you a taste of what Agile has on offer that's very different and perhaps exciting, as a way of enticing people to move towards change rather than to run from it. But the only good reason to adopt only 1 or 2 Agile principles at a time is to dip a toe in the water for your teams, to help inoculate them against fear by doing a little bit, then a little bit more. If you're only going to adopt these things piecemeal, you're never going to get the full picture, and you're never going to get the full benefit. The next thing you must be good at doing as an Agile leader is building trust. To me, that means leading by example. So live the Agile principles yourself. Don't preach retrospective and continuous feedback if you are unwilling to accept it for yourself. Don't preach the value of demos and shipping frequently if you are not willing to put your product up for review yourself. And by product, I don't mean your team's product, I mean your product, your coaching product. You must also stand between your team and consequences, because as they learn and as they experiment, if they do trust you and they do make commitments, it can't backfire with heavy negative consequences. You put them there, you are the leader, you are 100% accountable for what happens. So you must stand between yourself and your team if negative consequences surface. You have to live an Agile life. You have to be able to take Agile principles and apply them to your leadership, your development, your personal life, in such a way that you can now tell inspiring stories that uplift and drive home the benefits of agility to your team. And you also have to be willing to challenge them, which means if they're scared, if they're unsure, if they're unwilling to commit, don't leave them there. Let them know that your intention is to push them. Otherwise, why are they interested in implementing Agile, and why are they paying for a coach or scrum master to help them do it? Now, once you've built that trust, it becomes easier to start implementing and finding small victories. So ask for and insist on small commitments wherever you can get them. Any kind of commitment is a victory. If, for now, it's only the implementation of a Scrum board, if it is only the implementation of retrospectives, if it is only getting everyone co-located into a team room, find a way to measure and celebrate the impact that that makes. If you measure velocity, great. If you measure team happiness, great, even better. Find some way to prove that the small changes they've committed to have resulted in something being better. And celebrate collectively as a team. Showcase, market, and then go party your asses off as a group. From there, the last step is to build incrementally. So once celebrated, once it's in the can, commitment will grow through smaller and easier commitments. And they're reinforced when other people start doing it as well. See, here's the thing. People like being consistent with their past actions. So if they've made one commitment to you, just one, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it might be, they are way more likely to make another one. And more so if you do two things that are force multipliers. One, if you celebrate and positively reinforce them when successes happen, and number two, if you draw attention to an increasing number of people who are also making the same commitments. Effectively, peer pressure. Guys, thank you for listening. I hope you found these insights useful, and I hope that you can take them out to your tribe this week and start implementing them. If you're experiencing a lack of commitment, don't lose hope. Follow the steps we've discussed in this episode. And remember, we're trying to break big things and make them into smaller things. It is the incremental progress that matters, especially when it comes to getting commitment from a very large group of people who are very used to doing things a certain way over a very long period of time. So stay in the fight. Guys, you can find me at badassagile.com or on Twitter at badass_agile. I'll see you next time, and until then, stay badass.